So I've been doing a lot of thinking about the new Trump administration, some of the individuals that are going to be named into the administration, such as Elon Musk, and how this is going to have an effect on our community of people with disabilities. As a lot of you know, we have spent the better part of the past 5 years utilizing technology to build better pathways to support individuals with disabilities using Gen AI to match to jobs. There hasn't been a day that's gone by since we've started our company that an individual with a disability doesn't reach out to us, doesn't contact us, doesn't ask us for help finding a job. Businesses, especially after 2014, with the American with Disabilities Act, was toughened up. In essence, it said that companies that are federal contractors or subcontractors need to be working towards 7% of their employment base as individuals with disabilities, meaning they need to recruit individuals with disabilities. This gave our ability as a company a place to meet where individuals and companies could meet each other, and it would help disability employment. And so all of that has been going fairly well. I will say during the last election season here in 2024 that with the death of DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, certainly in the conversation, it hasn't died in corporate America yet, but it's certainly died on Bloomberg News and CNBC and Wall Street Journal, and you can feel the ramifications of that. It has slowed down the conversation around disability employment. Yet, we still get an email or a phone call or a text from an individual looking for work. And so there's a place for us here in this universe. So if you're disabled, you're out there, you know somebody looking for a job, or you're looking for a job yourself, send us an email at info@ourability.com, and we'll show you how to log in and begin your process. But here post-election and getting ready for Trump 2.0, I'm thinking a lot about the conversation around having Elon Musk and others look at discretionary funding and discretionary spending, and what can the government do in decreasing costs. Yesterday, it was announced that Elon Musk will head this task force, and it's been said both by Trump and by Musk that they look to eliminate $2 trillion in discretionary spending. That's an amazing amount of money. There's only 1.7 trillion in discretionary spending now on the federal government. So if you're in the federal government budget, so if you're going to eliminate 2 trillion, that's more than discretionary. These are dollars that trickle down. Let me explain, and then let me explain where this affects people with disabilities. According to the government website, the CBO website in the U.S. government, of the $1.7 trillion that are discretionary outlays, 917 billion of the 1.7 trillion is non-defense. 805 billion is defense. And so of the non-defense, what does that mean? Veteran benefits, education, training, employment, and social services, transportation, health, income security. They're the top 6 categories. All touch individuals with disabilities. Down the list, community and regional development, general science, space, and technology also touch individuals with disability. 74 billion in administration of justice. Those are dollars that do trickle down into organizations that support the justice of individuals with disabilities. But going back to what we do, which is build employment for individuals with disabilities, you look at education, training, employment, and social services. You're going to start seeing discretionary spending decreased and or eliminated around employment services for our community. Already today, in 2024, the real unemployment rate for individuals with disabilities is somewhere about 65%. That's 6, 7, 10 out of people with disabilities are unemployed. and services are not helping. There have been services out there that have are out there to be utilized that are being underutilized, by the way, to support individuals with disabilities. But if we're talking about taking these funds away, that means a couple of things. That does mean there'll be less places to go, things to do, support for individuals with disability, especially looking for employment, entrepreneurship, education. If there are less places to go, people will not only turn to us and other private entities that support, but more than likely will just give up. And that's a problem. And this is just a microcosm of what really is coming. If you're going to cut $2 trillion the federal budget, and in theory, maybe it sounds good. We need to quote, trim the fat of what's going on in the federal budget. But what does that mean in practical terms? Think about it from this standpoint. I sit in New York State. New York State alone, 36% of the state's revenue, 36% of the state's revenue came from federal dollars from federal programs that trickled down to the state. 36%, more than a third. So more than a third of the state's budget can be compromised by this, quote, new department in the Trump administration that's going to look at spending. What does that mean? That is not just programs that support individuals with disabilities, although we will take the biggest hit, and I can argue that in a minute. But think about 36%. That means clean water. That means clean air. That means healthcare. That means education. So if you think the New York State Education Department has a lot of money, and you might be right in some ways, the truth is if you're going to cut 36% of your state budget, one of two things is going to happen. Your state taxes are going to exponentially go up. More importantly, your state services are going to go way down. Your roads, your bridges are not going to be built and fixed. More importantly, those are construction jobs that are going to leave. Your schools will be defunded. If you lose 36% of your federal dollars being spent in the state, that trickles down through state education. That means your local school districts will lose anywhere between 20 and 30% of their spending dollars. 20 to 30%. That's not just your football team. That's not just your basketball team. That's not just your sports programs, but that'll be part of it. But it also means a third of your teachers, of your workforce, of your buildings. That means more students in the classroom per teacher. That means less education. Initially, it'll come out that we're going to eliminate all sports programs, but you know what? The society is geared around sports. It won't be sports that lose. It'll be busing, educators, administrators will be gone. That means you're going to have upwards of 50, 60 students in a classroom. That's going to look like a university lecture, not public school. Think about this when you're talking about a federal government willing to eliminate $2 trillion of discretionary spending. Those spending dollars come back to jobs in local, regional, and state levels. And by the way, here's the best part about it. It's not the mandatory spending. So it's not operations and military. Military is going to keep their money. So the big federal contractors will keep their money. Those people that have federal contracts will keep their money, i.e. Elon Musk, SpaceX, Starlink. So Elon Musk is going to come in, eliminate discretionary spending, but he'll keep his contracts and grow them. Jeff Bezos will keep his contracts and grow them through Amazon. But you know what? We will lose. And so it's jobs in the local marketplace. It's education in the local marketplace. And it's going to have a massive ramification. And that means then states are going to be left to decide what to do. You've seen in New York State alone in the last 2 years, we've had an argument about funding for direct support staff for individuals with disabilities. And it's been a very important conversation to have. But now imagine a state budget with 36% less. It's not going to be just direct support employees. It's going to be all disability related spending. Because let's not kid ourselves. We're the last in. We're the last of a civil rights movement. And we're going to be the first out. I'm thinking about those federal dollars again, and I'm thinking about vocational rehabilitation. Vocational rehabilitation, if you don't know, started after World War II. Federal dollars that were supporting the rehabilitation, we can talk about that word in a minute, but the rehabilitation of soldiers being injured in World War II, veterans coming back needing a job. The program has stayed in existence over these past 80, 90 years to help individuals with disabilities find a new vocation, find training, find employment. It hasn't always been a perfect system, certainly, but it does help more than 800,000 people with disabilities annually. Could it help more? Absolutely. Is there a reason that people contact us because they may fall through the cracks? Sure. But is it a valuable program? Absolutely. Federal dollars for this VR program make up nearly 80% of the total program. Another 20% come from states and local territories. That means states like New York, if they're going to keep some sort of vocational rehabilitation program going, are going to need to make up that 80%. You and I both know that at the end of the day, if a bridge is falling down or if a road needs to be fixed, that's going to become way more important in a society rather than a program to support individuals with disabilities. This sounds pretty dire, and it is. It is dire, in my opinion. I think those that voted for Trump didn't understand the ramifications that it's going to have in our local communities, our small town communities, our Shenango counties of the world, our Chemung counties of the world. We've been lost. We've been forgotten. We've been forgotten not because of our political leaders per se, although they're part of it. We've been forgotten because very few people have all of the dollars. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Tim Cook, Peter Thiel, they've got the dollars and they want to keep the dollars. They'll keep their federal contracts. They'll keep the federal programs that they like, such as military spending. They'll keep that. What they will not do is support programs that are needed, support those that have the most need. And that is, in my opinion, what a government's supposed to do. A government is supposed to look out for those that need the most help, not to take advantage of, not to abuse its own constituents, but to do the very best in looking out for others. Hey, is there any silver lining here? I do see potentially two opportunities. One, very, very specifically, if federal programs are going to be eliminated because of discretionary spending, that means there's more opportunities for private partners to create employment programs in corporate America. Because at the end of the day, companies are still going to need labor force. We're going to start eliminating immigration completely. And if you listen to what was said on the political trail, we're going to start rounding up people who are not here in the United States legally. Those are people that are picking apples. Those are people that are cleaning hotel rooms. Those are people that are doing jobs that are not deemed worthy by some. Not me. I think all jobs are good. That does mean there's going to be an opportunity for people with disabilities to go to work. I'm still going to be a vocal advocate for eliminating some minimum wage, but boy, that seems a little bit silent right now in comparison to all the other things that could happen to individuals with disabilities. So there is a potential silver lining that more of us will be able to go to work because there are going to be more jobs needed to be done. because of our political climate. I think that's one opportunity. The second opportunity is this. We're at a crossroads politically. As I said, a lot of our politics has left us to the side. That big companies, really wealthy individuals, that money is not trickling down. But when federal dollars get cut, and those cuts hurt state, regional, and local communities, when people get fired because their jobs are eliminated at the local school district, when there are no substitute teachers, when there's no busing for your students and those jobs go away, when no roads are built, no construction's done in a local community, those jobs go away. When those jobs go away, that has a dramatic impact on restaurants, on discretionary spending in a local community. Those jobs will go away. There's going to be a dramatic economic downturn coming because I think Americans lose the fact how much our tax dollars go back to work in our local community. We now have the very richest people running our government, and they don't think that way. It's not going to hurt Wall Street. It's not going to hurt Mar-a-Lago. It's not going to hurt people with private planes, but it is going to hurt Main Street America. So the silver lining here is those people out there that lose their jobs, those people out there that have children with disabilities that lose services, those people out there that are going to be pinched because of these practices will start to speak up. But is it in time? Is it enough? There's a dramatic impact coming on our community, our communities, because of this political election. But make no mistake, this was all about keeping the very rich in power. The argument of our Republican versus Democrat, the argument black, white, the argument gay, straight, disability, non-disability, they'll continue to pit us against each other. They'll continue to use that. But it is just about keeping the wealthy wealthy. And that's a problem. That isn't the American way. That isn't. We can be better. So we'll see what happens. The future of disability in the United States of America is at a crossroads. Been thinking a lot about this. It starts with the discretionary spending, but it will end with how we treat each other. We could be in Germany 1935 right now. We very well could be, instead of helping people with disabilities find jobs, instead of businesses employing people with disabilities, we could do what happened in Germany in 1935. We could create more institutionalization, more camps for people with disabilities because there's no services. That's what happened in Germany. People with disabilities who had been very included in the 20s. Then comes an economic crash in the world. Then comes a very nationalistic movement. Then in Germany, what happened were people with disabilities, there was nothing for us to do. And so there was more institutionalization. That institutionalization towards the late 30s turned into hospitalization. And in 1939, when Poland was invaded by Germany, they needed those hospital beds. And that's where the euthanasia started in Germany. They killed tens of thousands of people with disabilities just to get the hospital beds for soldiers that were going to get hurt. We could be 1935 Germany right now. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what do we want 2035 United States of America to be? And I really don't know.